Settle it in Smash. Now, we do have some donation incentives to go over as soon as I change the screen. There we go. So, we have some donation incentives. If those of you who'd like to donate, in the link below, we'll have a GoFundMe where we're setting up the charity for the Epilepsy Foundation and things like that. The $10 donation, I'll start the next match taunting for a few minutes, or however long I feel like. We won't taunt for a few minutes or anything like that, but we will taunt for a little bit for the fun of it. For the $20 donation, you'll be able to choose the fighter we'll be playing the next round. So after you do that, you'll be able to, if I say that you donated and as the character for the person for the character and things like that. The last match we'll be playing for this segment is going to be a Smashdown mode. This is the mode where you have like a bunch of characters, and they're each like their stock and things like that. So if there's a $50 donation, that person will be able to choose the Smashdown lineup. And if we reach $100 by the end of the segment, we will play through Classic mode at the end of the segment. It'll make it go on for a little longer than originally planned, but we will be going for a Classic mode route at the end of the Smash segment. Now, without further ado, let's get this started. I'm going to be turning up the game audio a little bit so we can actually hear the game. Might need to be turned up just a little bit more. Alright, let's go through Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. We're playing a bunch of modes now. Why is it doing tutorial stuff? Does it not have the deal? Oh, wait. What? Okay, okay, for the fun of it, let's see what characters we have on here. We don't have any of the DLC characters on here! Okay, we're gonna pause this segment for a moment because I need to take care of that. Alright, so basically my personal Switch that I use for my videos and things like that, the cartridge slot on it kind of got messed up over the weekend, and that's not been the most pleasant thing in the world. And so I'm using my sister's Switch for this. I didn't realize that the DLC wouldn't be here, so I'm just gonna take care of that real quick. Yay, this is off to a great start. Okay, I'm not going to be downloading all of them. I'm just gonna get a small handful of them. Okay, we're going to be redownloading Sephiroth. We're going to let's have this back on the screen so you can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, we're going to be redownloading Sephiroth. We're going to be getting Joker. We have to have Pyro and Mytho. Pyro and Mytho are the best characters in the game. And let's go with Byleth. And Banjo-Kazooie. If I feel like playing with another character, we can download them a little bit later. But let's back out Smash for a little bit and let this all re-download. This is off to a great start. Okay, so I knew I'd have to do the thing of using the save cloud thing to do stuff, but I thought that would have downloaded the DLC too. I guess that wasn't the case, so that's a little bit on the unfortunate side. But thankfully it made it through, so it should be okay. Checking if the software can be played. We literally were just in the game. Alright, so basically how this is going to work is that we're going to be playing, like, we did start at 3, but with all that, we're a couple minutes behind now, so we're going to start counting down the hour for now. So at 4:05, that's where we'll be ending this segment. but we're going to be playing for a little while, so that's going to be a pretty fun time all around. Banjo and Kazooie join the battle! Byleth joins the battle! Sephiroth joins the battle! Pyra, Mithra join the battle! Near stage! Okay, with all that taken care of, now we'll go into Smash Bros. Alright, so we'll be playing a 3-stock battle, and let's go. We'll be starting off with my personal favorite stages and characters and things like that, so we'll go for Mentos, we'll go for Murray Towers, and Ebb and Flow. Alright, my favorite character in the game is Pyra and Mithra, so we'll go with you. And our first opponent is going to be... Let's go... who'd be a good opponent? Let's go with Palutena. Pyra and Mithra are kind of goddesses and things like that, so it'd be a fitting battle. This is what I like to do when I play Smash Brothers. I like to have like a theme for the characters I'll be fighting and things like that. Alright, so let's go over here. Now, I'm not the best Smash Brothers character. I'm not the best Smash fighter in the world and things like that, but I do play... this is like the game mode on Switch that I've played the most, that I have the most hours in. Objectively. So, I believe on my regular Switch, I believe I have like 500 hours into this game. But I think if you count the Let's Play profile, Breath of the Wild probably has a lot more time than this game does. Splatoon 2 would also be really high up on the list too, because I played a ton of Splatoon 2. Like, not just for the Let's Play, but, like, just in general. Like, Splatoon 2 probably is one of the games I've played the most on the Switch and things like that. So it'd be a pretty fun time all around. But yeah, if there's anybody who would like to see a specific character in the game, I do have all of them. I would need to re-download a couple of DLC characters, but I do have all the characters, so if you want to see a specific one, we got the joint organism tier for that as well. It's a pretty fun time all around. After this round, I'm going to check over the game audio on the stream to make sure that everything's working properly. Because, like, when we had a Cobra with us, we weren't really able to do the thing where we'd sync up the microphone and things like that, so it's synced up to the game audio. But since it's just me now, I don't have to worry about that, so I should, in theory, have it synced up properly. Okay, Palutena's going for a final smash. I don't think that'd be enough for our KO. Oh, it was. Never mind. What I really like about Pyra and Mithra is that you have Mithra who can like go around the stage pretty quickly. Her attacks are very quick and a bit hard to read and things like that. And then you got Mithra, and then you got Pyra who's like really great at KOing and things like that. So they're a really good combo character. It's very much like Sheik and Zelda. In Smash Melee and Brawl. The thing with that, though, is that Sheik and Zelda didn't really go hand-in-hand that well. Sheik was a good, quick character, but she had her own, like, powerful finishing moves and things like that. And Zelda was a great character. She was my personal favorite in Brawl, but, like, she didn't really have a whole lot of strong finishing moves, so a lot of folks in the competitive scene didn't really see much of a value of transforming between Sheik and Zelda. If I remember correctly on the official tier list and things like that, I believe Steve is the highest rated character at the moment, but Pyra and Mithra are very high up on the list too. They're either number 2 or number 3, I don't remember the exact details, but they're really high up on the list as well, and like when I saw that I was really happy because it seems like in the previous patch couple of games, it seems like in the previous patch games and things like that, a lot of my favorite characters weren't really high up on the tier list and things like that. Now, tier lists in general are very objective, or very objectional. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but they're not definitive on which characters are the best and things like that. So, like, obviously, like, for a Brawl, you'd have Meta Knight who legit was broken in the competitive scene. But that doesn't mean that you'd automatically be the best player in the world just because you were playing Meta Knight and things like that. Okay, let's go with Pichu. Pichu versus Ridley. Oh, wait. Okay. I usually have the CPU set to level 8 and things like that. I was wondering why it seemed a little too easy last time, but we'll change that next time. I will change, adjust the enemy AI in the next round and things like that. But, yeah, Pyro and Mytha are ranked pretty high up on the tier list and things like that. I'm pretty happy about that. One theme I like going with whenever I'm playing with Pichu, I always like having Pichu fighting a character that you probably wouldn't really stand much of a chance with in real life, or in like a real match and things like that. So like I like having Pichu fighting Ridley because it's a baby Pikachu, like who like hurts itself with its own electricity and things like that, fighting the leader of the Space Pirates, who's like a super genius and things like that. Like, Ridley, on first glance, you may look at him and think that he's just like a movie monster and things like that, but Ridley is very intelligent. Like, Ridley is able to, like, strategize and things like that, and so, yeah, like, Ridley probably is one of the more terrifying Nintendo villains out there. I'm really happy that Ridley was playable in this game. Because, like, Ridley was very high up on the list for a lot of people and things like that. Personally, I could go one way or the other. I didn't really actually care that much if Ridley was going to be playable or not. But it was more so the fact that it would have been nice to have seen more Metroid representation in Smash. Because Metroid is one of Nintendo's longest running franchises and things like that. And while it's never been like a big seller or anything like that, it is important for a lot of Nintendo fans. So it was nice to see a Metroid representation in the game. Pichu also has one of my favorite Final Smashes in the game as well. Alright, so I'm gonna listen to the stream audio real quick to see if everything's running properly. Alright, it seems like everything's running perfectly fine, so that's pretty good. What do we want to do next? Let's go. We got Terry, right? Looks like we didn't get Terry. Going back to the shop real quick. I meant to get Terry. I wanted to get Terry. He's one of my favorites in the game. Hey, remember that time that I said I was a professional at this? Alright, well, you know what, since we're already here, we might as well get the rest of the DLC characters as well. It's really weird that I didn't download the DLC with the rest of the the game. It's a little unusual, but whatever. Alright, we got you. Where's Terry? There he is. Alright, I think that's going to be everything I actually care about. Let's play one more round and then go back out of the game to download the DLC. That's fun. That's exciting. Let's go. Let's go with Hidden Village. And the next one's going to be this one with this song. Yeah, it's going to be epic and awesome. Inkling is one of my favorite characters in this game. So, after Smash for Wii U, my #1 most wanted character for the next Smash game at the time was definitely Inkling, because Splatoon very quickly became one of my favorite games of all time, so I was really excited with the possibility of an Inkling being playable in Smash. We did have the trophy in Smash for Wii U, but that really wasn't anything at all. Yeah, so like I was really happy that we got an Inkling playable in the next game. Not just that, but also the fact that Inkling was the first character confirmed for Smash. Like, man, I would never forget the day that this game was announced. So, the day that they had the Nintendo Direct, I had a college final that day. It was for a math class and things like that. And during the test, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, okay, I can do this, I can do it, but there's Nintendo Direct happening right now. Who knows what's being announced, and I'm missing it because I'm doing stupid math. So, after I leave, I'm like, okay, Nintendo Direct, it happened. It probably wasn't all that exciting. But then I'm waiting for my mom, who's picking me up from college, and so I look over my YouTube feed and trying to see if there's any trailers that I can watch a little bit sooner. Within the thing, I see Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo Switch announcement, Splatoon 2 Octo Expansion announcement, and I look at both of those. I'm like, what? Oh my god, that looks awesome! I need to watch this right now. So, yeah, those are the days that I first saw Smash Bros. Was announced. Oh, that right there was so cool! Okay, so that right there, that's one of my favorite tricks to do with the Inkling, because like a whole lot of people don't really see it coming. So, adding. So the trick you do when you do the squid jump, the ink puddle, when you land and when you first do the jump, they can like cause a little bit of knockback and things like that. And what I really love about this is that it can lead to some pretty fun combos, like the one we just saw right there, where Ganondorf ricocheted off the edge of the wall. You can also do this to reflect physical projectiles, too. So there's one time where I was able to use this to reflect King DDD's Gordo. And that was like one of the most satisfying KOs I ever got in this game. Alright, so I took care of that. We'll be backing out of the game in a moment. We did it! Yay! Alright, let's back out for a second. Alright, some other games we got on here. We got Super Mario RPG, which I gotta say, that was very quick. Checking if the software can be played. Yeah. Hey now, here's my song for you. Yeah, that's right. I wish that I was yours, but I'm too shy, I suppose. Yeah. What's another song we could sing? I don't care. Terry joins the battle. Min joins the battle. This makes me think of playing Hyrule Warriors back on Wii U, because if you start a new profile with the DLC and things like that, you got like 5 bazillion messages saying, hey, you got Skull Kid, you got Twilight Midna, you got Young Link, you got Medley. It's just one of the silliest things in the world. It's really funny. Okay, I think that's the version I want to use. We're gonna have Terry versus Ryu. I forgot to change the CPU level. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. Now, Terry himself, like, I remember thinking, oh, great. So, like, my thing with Smash Brothers characters is that, I don't know, like, I don't believe in the... This isn't the version of the song I want. I listened to it real quick because, like, I prefer the Japanese version of that song, and um, yeah, I'm weird. Okay, now that we have the correct version, this will give us the chance to change the CPU level as well. But yeah, going back to Terry, it was accidentally leaked that an SNK character was going to be, that's not Terry, an SNK character was going to be the next one after, after Banjo-Kazooie and things like that. So, it was obvious at the time that Terry Bogard was going to be the character because he's like the face of SNK. But I remember back then, like my only experience with SNK games was in the SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy. So I was thinking maybe it would be Atina Asamiya. She's the girl in the background with the red dress and the purple hair and things like that. She's super adorable in SNK Heroines. So I was thinking that she would be the character, but then it was Terry. And I remember back when the game was announced, when Terry was announced, the trailer finished and it showed Terry, and I was like, oh, okay, great, it's another fighting game guy. And like my thing at the time was that the fighting game characters like Ryu and Ken, people like that, were like the least interesting of the new characters because they already come from fighting games, so it doesn't seem all that special to see them in a crossover fighting game and things like that. So that was my opinion at the time. For the most part, I still somewhat feel that way, especially with Kazuya and things like that, but at the same time, like seeing the different fighting mechanics working together in these games, it's actually really cool. So like Ryu still uses his command inputs from Street Fighter, Terry still has his super specials, and Kazuya's moveset is probably the closest that would have been possible to Tekken's gameplay. The thing is, like, I haven't actually played any of the original fighting games that these guys came from. My only original fighting game experience is, like, I played a little bit of these games, but I played SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy, Dead or Alive, Soul Calibur, and things like that. So I haven't played a whole lot of fighting games like that, but it's still, fighting games are still pretty fun. My thing is that a lot of fighting games kind of feel like they have a big difficulty curve. Like, I remember it taking me a while to really get into the gameplay for Dead or Alive. Like, even then, like, in that game, I still have a hard time, like, really wrapping my head around the hold system. But even then, like, I'm more so of an RPG guy anyway. Like, I like RPGs, action-adventure games, platformers. Like, those are usually my go-to when it comes to games. Alright, so one finishing move I like to do with Terry. That didn't work. I like to go like that. And then if you do like an up tilt, he does like that corkscrew thing where he spins upwards and things like that. That's a pretty good finishing move too. But probably my favorite, the most satisfying way to finish somebody with Terry is using the super specials. Alright, let's go with Castle Siege this time. This one right here, Gear Up For, that's a song from Fire Emblem Heroes, and like, I say really well about Fire Emblem Heroes, but I actually kind of like that game. So like, there definitely are better Fire Emblem games out there, but that's the one that I was really able to get into, and that's like by far my favorite of the Nintendo mobile games. I've already played a whole lot recently, but it was pretty fun from what I played. Alright, so we got Zelda, and Zelda will be fighting Sephiroth. Xbox victory, eat a bear, lemon tea. Xbox victory, eat a bear, lemon tea. Sephiroth. Yeah, so like, the thing with Fire Emblem Heroes is that I would love to see another game in that style, because like the big thing that people really like about Fire Emblem Heroes is like seeing a bunch of the Fire Emblem characters, and a lot of them get like alternate outfits and things like that. So you got characters in like Christmas outfits and things like that. You got summer variations, so you got really fun things like that. So I would love to see something like that for Zelda, because Zelda has more than enough characters to justify a game like that. Now I don't think they'd go with a strategy RPG route, But if they were to make a Zelda mobile game, then I could totally see them monetizing it in that way. My issue with it though is that I really hope that if they do something like that, that they don't limit themselves to just Breath of the Wild, because that's kind of my I dropped my controller. Hold on a second. I was moving my hands when I was talking, and I dropped my controller. There we go. Okay, so what I was trying to say was that my concern with the Zelda series right now, I'm really hoping they don't go the route of like Tomb Raider 2013 or Paper Mario, where they only pretend that the new stuff is what Zelda is supposed to be. Because Breath of the Wild is great, but Zelda is so much more variety than just open world or linear experiences and things like that. So like, there's so much more they can do with the Zelda series. I don't believe in the mindset that 3D Zelda can only be open world or can only be like a traditional game. I do believe that there is a place for both of them in the series, because before that, they had like the 3D Zelda games, they had the handheld games, they had the multiplayer games, they had all kinds of variety of Zelda games ongoing at once. So I don't believe for a moment that like only one type of Zelda game is it for the Zelda series. There was an interview recently where Raiju Numa mentioned that he wasn't quite sure why people were wanting something more like the original Zelda games, because he felt that structure was too limiting. But the thing is, you can do the best of both worlds. You can do an open world with a more structured story. So like, if I was in charge of it, what I would do would be to have a two-world system, like a light world and a dark world. And basically, you start off in the light world. The light world is nice and small, something to ease the player into the game and things like that. But then you get into the dark world, which is your big open world and things like that. So you go into there, and what time do I want to do for this round? We sports the door right now. So you can do the light world. That'd be like your super simple place you start off the game with, but then you'd go into the dark world, which would be like your big open world and things like that, and that'd be gradually opening up as time goes on. So you go into the light world, you get told this is your next objective, go over here, but then you get over there and it's like a big open area with a lot to do and things like that, and it gradually builds up the world as time goes on. Alright, switch over to Ivysaur. We had a pretty strong start with Squirtle. What we're gonna do? We're switching over to Charizard. We missed. So I really like the Pokemon trainer in this game, because one thing that really annoyed me in Brawl was the Pokemon themselves would get tired after a while. The basic idea behind that was that it was meant to mimic the fact that Pokemon, in the original games, they could only do certain moves for a certain number of times. Before their power points or whatever goes out, or whatever it's supposed to be called. So the idea behind that was that after you play with the character for a while, that character would start getting tired, and their moves would be a lot more effective, would be a lot less effective. So you'd have to switch out your characters and things like that. So I'm really happy that they don't really do that anymore in this game, and you can just switch to one of them. Squirtle is usually my go-to for starting off a match and things like that. But then Charizard, I'll switch over to him to get ready to finish the match, and Ivysaur would be like that middle ground where I can get a little bit more damage off them. But like my big downside with them is that none of them really have like a good recovery. So Squirtle has this thing right here, which is kind of like Mario's recovery, but it's not really that great. Ivysaur has this stupid rope, which doesn't really help with the jumping and things like that. And Charizard Has a couple extra jumps, but not really anything worthwhile. Yeah, like, I accidentally did the up special right there. I was trying to do a side special instead. But even then, I don't think the side special would have been enough. Okay, I want to be careful with this. Alright, so a bit of a reminder for anybody in the stream chat who's hoping to donate and things like that. So, alongside the donation incentives that we have ongoing right now, all the donations before the next segment, they can go towards a viewer being able to choose a game. So, like, on the description below, we'll have the random number gaming list where viewers can look at that to see which games they want to vote for and things like that. The viewer voted game and things like that is going to be the top priority. But nothing happens. It's fine. Like, we already raised an insane amount for this charity, so, like, I'm really happy with how this turned out. Let's go with the Fountain of Dreams. The adventure begins. That was I believe this is the song from Kirby's Return to Dreamland, and I thought it'd be a pretty fitting one considering we're currently doing that project on the collab channel. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be involved in the last part of it, but I'm pretty excited for folks to be able to get a chance to check it out. We got some Kirby in there, so naturally, we are going to be playing with Pokemon. We got Mewtwo, who's going to be beating up Lucario. Now, in terms of what I'd personally like to see in the next Smash Bros. Game, so it would be cool to see every character return again, but realistically speaking, I don't think that's going to happen. So, like, Master Sakurai had already said several times that he thinks that the Everybody Is Here thing is like a one-time thing. Now, on one hand, I think what they could do is that they could start off with a nice, modest roster that's reasonable to develop for, and then gradually release the rest of the characters over time. Now, even then, it's not going to be like something as super simple as I'm sure a lot of people would assume, because you'd still want to make sure that every character is working properly with the physics changes between games. Yeah, so what I'd personally do for the next Smash Bros. Game, I would start off with a nice, simple roster. You'd have your base, original 12 characters, maybe a couple characters, additional characters from the future games and things like that. The little used characters like Dr. Mario and things like that would be like a lower priority to return. So like that, they'd start with that and have the majority of the roster be focused on new characters, and then have your DLC be focused on like DLC packs for returning characters. So DLC pack 1, here are the returning characters from Melee. DLC pack 2, returning characters from Brawl, and then so on and so forth and things like that. And it would gradually build up to having all the characters come back and things like that. Because I think this way, with having a focus more so on new characters as the base roster, you could limit it to like maybe like 30 or 40 characters at the base, and from there you'd be able to focus more so on having like a more worthwhile single player content, because I really like World of Light, but it is a big step back from Subspace Emissary. So yeah, like the Subspace Emissary was definitely like the more, I don't want to say it was more fun, because it definitely did have a lot of moments that weren't that great. I think gameplay-wise, World of Light is more interesting, but story-wise, Subspace Emissary is a lot better. Because they were able to have a lot more, they were able to do a lot more with story, with having like, simple characters and things like that. So, with that in mind, what I think what they could do with that as well is that, like, in Hyrule Warriors, They had the adventure mode maps, and then after every DLC thing came out, they had additional maps for adventure mode. They could do something like that, where for every DLC pack where like melee or brawl characters return, they'd have like a simple story expansion that's like maybe 3 or 4 stages long that shows the new characters and things like that. Because that's one thing that really bummed me out about this game was that you had Word of Light and it was really cool, but you didn't include anything from Persona or like ARMS or anything like that, or Banjo-Kazooie into Word of Light. I would have loved to have seen them introduce stuff like that from as the DLC things went on, introduce more to Word of Light. Word of Light on its own is already kind of big, so I don't know if I'd want to have more than that, but yeah, it's certainly a thing. Okay, this is something I was looking for. This is very offbeat because I'm listening to game audio, which is a little behind the rest of it. Okay, so let's go with Palutena this time. And Palutena will be fighting Zelda. Alright, so Palutena, she was easily one of my favorite characters in Super Smash Bros. 4, and she's still really high up on the list in Ultimate. A couple things I will say about why is that, first of all, Palutena is waifu, so like I was already happy to see like one of my favorite new waifus at the time become playable in the game. But I also just really liked her gameplay too. In Super Smash Bros. For Wii and 3DS, they had custom moves in that game. Most of the characters had fairly limiting custom moves that were basically just minor variations of their regular attacks and things like that. So Mario had like his regular fireball, but then he had a larger one that would fire off slower. Or he'd have a quick fireball that would fire in a straight line. It would be very quick, but wouldn't have a whole lot of knockback and things like that. Palutena's custom moves, they were radically different. So like her side special, they could become. The waifu exploded. Her side special, for example, it could become either like the Reflect or Super Speed and things like that. What I really liked though was that her default moveset had a counter and a reflector. So like with Palutena in this game, that's still the case where if you do your counter, if it's a physical move, it'll be the regular counter attack, but if it's a projectile move, it'll turn into the reflection move. Which is a pretty nice change. But in Super Smash Bros. For Wii and 3DS, where down default special was the counter and the side counter and the side special was a reflect. So I always really liked her defense game, because Lord knows that I needed it. But like that's like one of the bigger reasons why Palutena was one of my favorites in Smash 4. She had a good defensive game, and she was best waifu, so that's a good combination. Thank goodness that triangle's not facing the other way. If it was facing the other way, that would have been a KO. I will say that it took me a little while to get used to not using a side special for Palutena's Reflector in this game. Because I was so used to that in Smash 4 Wii and 3DS that it took a little bit to get used to not doing that anymore. It was also interesting because one of my favorite online matches, I don't remember if it was in this game or in Smash 4, but one of my favorite ways that I've won an online match was I was playing Palutena and I was fighting against a Mewtwo player, and Palutena's Reflector, it reflected Mewtwo's Shadow Ball. He reflected it back to me, but because Palutena's Reflector stays out for a little bit, it bounced off that and then still hit Mewtwo. It was great. There's one song I'm looking for, I don't see it anywhere. Do they not have that? I know it's in here somewhere. I guess it's not in here. Uh-huh. Okay, well, let's go with this one instead. I know that song is in here. I was looking for a Style Savvy song that I usually use for Gator Stream intermissions, but I can't find it in here. I know it's not a DLC thing, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. Okay, let's go with this one instead. Alright, so we got these two areas. We got two stages that come from, like, pretty nice and cutesy looking worlds and things like that. So let's have some super serious characters in there. Let's have Snake versus Dark Samus. The moment that I saw Snake in this game, that was pretty cool. That was probably like one of the most hyped moments that from that entire presentation. The fact that the everybody was here thing, like, didn't significantly leak and things like that, that was super cool. Because, like, one thing that's really not fun about modern day Smash discussions is, like, seeing leaks and things like that. Because more often than not, they're fake, but they also, like, set unrealistic expectations for, like, the end game and things like that. So, like, the biggest example I could think of was the Grinch leak. The Grinch leak was this huge, elaborate hoax for this game right before launch, and the thing about it was that it was some guy who was working at a marketing firm or something like that, and he was leaking images of, like, banners and lanyards and stuff that you'd see at a convention. But the lanyards and banners and things like that had the full roster. So the banner artwork that you'd see after characters are announced gradually got more characters as time went on. And this supposed thing had more characters like Banjo-Kazooie, Mach Rider, just things like that. So the with how elaborate it is making entirely new artwork, but also just that. But also, because the story was that this guy was in a marketing firm, it also had like a poster for the Grinch movie, and this artwork was entirely original too. So a lot of people just didn't believe the fact that somebody would go out their way to not only make an elaborate Smash Brothers artwork, but make artwork for a Grinch movie. So yeah, like, we don't fully know the entire details of what exactly happened with that. We don't know who made it. We don't know why it got spread like that. But it's like one of the most interesting fake leaks in the series history. Now, probably the most interesting real leak that happened was the ESRB leak in Smash 4. So if those of you who don't know about this one's a real interesting story. So, with how secretive Nintendo is with the Smash Brothers and things like that, they didn't really have a whole lot of outside people looking at the game, obviously. But ESRB is a company that they legally have to have a game go through to get, like, a rating for the game. So it wasn't entirely sure where this originally started for the longest time. Let's go with the grand finale for this one. And Gerudo Valley. So it wasn't entirely certain where this all came from for the longest time, but there was one leak where footage from the SRB was starting to circulate through the internet and things like that. So this picture showed the final roster for Super Smash Bros. For 3DS, and it showed characters that had been announced yet, like Shulk, Dr. Mario, Ness, Mr. Game & Watch, and things like that. So it showed all that, like, before they were fully announced and stuff. And there are people wondering if it was real. This is where the whole Shulk looks like a Photoshop Little Mac thing, where that came from. And I believe there was also footage for this too. There's a gameplay footage, and one of the bigger things is that it also contains the only original. It also contains the only collectible trophy in the game that's not in the final game. So there's a trophy for Tharya from Fire Emblem Awakening, but she's not in the final game. And looking at the footage of this collectible trophy compared to the final game, it's the only trophy that's missing. So it's likely it was removed because of the ESRB things. But for the longest time, we didn't really know where this came from. We didn't know where the leak came from or who was responsible for it. We just knew that it came from the ESRB. But recently it came out that this is actually like a Nintendo employee, because it was something along the lines of like their kid was really excited to see what was going to be in the next Smash Bros. Game. And the thing is, in game development, you're not supposed to tell anybody about what you're working on. You can't tell your family, you can't tell your friends, you can't tell people like that. And also, more often than not, you also really can't really tell your coworkers either. So like if you're both working for the same company, but you're working on different projects and things like that, you can't really talk to them about what projects you're working on, because there's like non-disclosure agreements and things like that. So yeah, this person didn't follow the rule. The kid wanted to see who was in the next Smash Brothers game, and so this person let their kid look at the game and things like that. So then the kid started spreading it to his friends, and then the friends spread it online, and that's where the whole thing came from. So yeah, that whole thing of my dad works for Nintendo, it actually happened one time. I would like to make a gaming gallery going into more detail about leaks and things like that in general. My problem with that is that it feels like whenever I do look into it, it feels like there's either, if I'm trying to find out where something came from, it's either a dead end, or like I'll look into it and then more information comes out later that disproves of something that I previously looked into. And yeah, that's a whole thing right there. That's kind of my problem with working on gaming galleries in general, is that it feels like after I finish one, it feels like I looked through the development history top to bottom, looked at every possible resource I could find, but then after the video comes out, something else is revealed about it and makes my video outdated. So I remember like one big one was that, like the Tokyo Mirage Sessions video, I spent years researching that one, and I was really happy with how it turned out. But then after I finished working on the video, a detail came out that Tsubasa was already supposed to have glasses, or that Michael was going to be a party member in the game. And I didn't know about that until after the video was already finished, so I could put a pinned comment in that. But at the same time, it was like, I spent years working on this thing. Why did I only see this just now? Alright, we're gonna take care of that. Okay, I love this right here. I love this right here. You're going a little mag, doing like the endless punching things. That was really good. Okay, so what I was trying to say was that, like, I really loved Little Mac's announcement trailer, because it was a super epic. You saw him training and things like that, working towards becoming a fighter, and then he gets into the ring, he becomes champion. It was super epic. Okay, I'm gonna check the stream real quick to make sure everything is still working. I'm a little worried about that. Alright, looks like everything is working. Sorry about that. Alright. Yay, it's working! Okay, so, yeah, let's finish out this match. Hi, stream people. Yeah, OBS was like skipping for a moment, and I was a little worried about that, but it looks like it's all good now. So we probably have time for like 1 or 2 more matches before we do the final match for this round. So let's go off with something super epic. Let's go with my favorite characters in the game. So we're gonna go Ebb and Flow, then Classy of Valrest. We didn't play Joker yet. Let's play the Joker for a bit. We'll play Joker fighting Banjo-Kazooie. I was thinking having Inkling and Pirate Mithra, but, you know, these 2 characters are pretty great too. We haven't seen them in the segment yet, so we'll play with them for a little bit. But yeah, like, starting off with Joker as a DLC character, that was such a highlight, because Nintendo had teased that DLC would be coming, but we didn't know when they'd be announcing the first character. But then during the Game Awards, they show like a Persona-style animation, and then it's a Smash Brothers reveal. That was so cool, because like that really did set the stage that the DLC for Smash Brothers was just going to be going all over the place. We didn't really know like who would be in the game, because like Joker from Persona, of all characters, was playable in Smash Brothers. Because like Persona itself has never really had a history on Nintendo systems. It did have Persona Q and things like that, but like the mainline games had never been on Nintendo system at that point, and it was just such a huge surprise to see Joker in the game. So that really did set the stage that anything was possible. Yeah, and that whole thing really did, like, continue onwards from... Yeah, words are difficult. That whole thing really did continue onwards from the DLC going forward. Because during E3, we had the hero from Dragon Quest announced, but Banjo-Kazooie was also confirmed at the same time. And Banjo-Kazooie always seemed like that oddball character that would just work so perfectly in Smash, but they just wouldn't happen because they belonged to Microsoft and things like that. But then they were announced, and that was such a good moment. That was like one of my favorite announcements in general. Not just because it was Banjo-Kazooie, but also because it happened on my birthday. That was so cool. So, yeah, Banjo-Kazooie was announced. I think the only character who like legit shocked the world more than that, like, yeah, Sora was a really awesome inclusion in the game, and he was, according to Nintendo, the most requested character for Smash Brothers. He won like the fighter battle and things like that, but couldn't make it in time for Smash 4. So Sora arguably would be a bigger deal. I really do think Steve was probably the most hyped in general. Not personally for me. I think Pyra and Mithra were my most excited characters ever. But like Minecraft was also another thing where like a lot of people grew up with it. It was very important to a lot of people. So like it just seemed like it would fit the style of Smash Brothers, but we weren't sure if that one was going to work because it originally started off as an indie game and there's never been an indie character before. Not just that, but it also belonged to Microsoft now, which, yeah, Banjo-Kazooie was in the game, but for all we know, that could have been like a one-time thing and they weren't going to have any other characters in the game. And then Minecraft gets announced. And like, I'm not even really that big into Minecraft. I remember when Steve was announced, I was actually kind of legit upset, honestly. Because, like, I was super excited for who the next character was going to be, and it just seemed like it was going to be really cool. And the trailer, looking back on it now, yeah, it's obvious it was Minecraft, but with Mario going into a dark tunnel and things like that, my mindset was going to be, like, a Breath of the Wild character. But, then, like, Steve came out of the wall and things like that, and I remember thinking, oh, great, cool, I guess, whatever. But then, like, I was looking online and, like, first of all, Twitter wasn't even working for the longest time that day. Like, Steve legit broke Twitter, which was... It doesn't very happen a whole lot, at least back in the day. So, yeah, like, seeing how excited people were for Steve, I was like, okay, I'm wrong about this. Steve is actually a big deal in Smash, and this does seem really cool. We did it! Yay! Alright, so we got 3 more minutes. Actually, a little longer than that because we had the DLC hiccup a moment ago at the beginning of the stream. So we still have time for more matches. So this next match is going to be Inkling versus Pyro Mithra. Let's go. Since we had Banjo-Kazooie and Joker last time, we'll play on their stages this time. Yeah, like Pyro and Mithra, they were easily my most hyped characters. Got the entirety of Smash 4's thing and things like that, because like I love Xenoblade Chronicles too. Xenoblade 2 specifically is probably my favorite RPG of all time, alongside Earthbound and things like that. And I was really looking forward to seeing if they were going to include a Xenoblade 2 within Smash Ultimate. But then towards the end of Smash 4's development cycle and things like that, Sakurai said that Xenoblade 2 and ARMS were announced too late to be included in the game. And I was like, well, that's cool and all, but at the same time, you introduced characters way earlier than that. Like, Greninja was just in the very early planning stages before he was decided for the game, for Smash 4. And Nintendo originally wanted a Fire Emblem Three Houses character to be in the base roster of the game, but they needed more development time on Violet, so they became a low priority and things like that. But Sakurai was able to look at an early build for Three Houses to include Violet. So, like, if they wanted to have a Xenoblade 2 character at the base roster, they could have had Sakurai look at Xenoblade 2 a little earlier, right? But that wasn't the case. But then, like, an ARMS character was confirmed for the first part of Fighter Pass 2, which was later confirmed to be Min Min, which I was really excited about because Min Min is my favorite ARMS character, so I was really excited about that. But then seeing Min Min being confirmed, I was like, okay, there's still hope for a Xenoblade character. There's still hope for a Xenoblade character. I'm really hoping this is the case. So I was really excited about that. And, like, at the time, I was thinking it'd be, like, Rex and Pyro would be the obvious choice. And they'd play, like, an Ice Climber character. But I'm really happy that we got this instead, because this makes a lot more sense. Pyro and Mithra really are the main characters of Xenoblade 2. And, like, even if Rex is the main character you're playing as, the story is really more so about Pyro and Mithra. So, like, I was really happy to see that they'd be playable. And we did it! Yay! Alright, so like I said earlier, the Smashdown thing, that's going to be the last match we'll be playing for Smash Ultimate for this segment. So I think it might be a bit too late to do the Classic mode for this segment, so unfortunately it doesn't look like we'll quite reach that goal, but it's fine. So we'll be going over here to... What's Smashdown then? Okay, so the squad strike, that's the thing that I was wanting to do. I guess I got the name mixed up in the incentive, but it's fine. Now, what stage do we want to do? Let's go with Skyloft, because like Skyward Sword is one of my favorite games of all time. And Earthbound is my other favorite game of all time. We'll do a 5 versus 5. And we'll go with my top mains in the game. So, let's go with Pyro and Mithra to start off with. Joker will be next. Then we got Inkling. Palutena. And last character is going to be... Who do we want last? Let's go with Zelda. And the characters will be fighting... Actually, never mind. Okay, we're gonna change you over to Byleth real quick, and we're gonna fight Joker instead. Gonna fight you, fight Sephiroth. DDD. Who else is there? Let's go Shulk. And Isabel. And we'll go with the random order. Alright, let's do this. Alright, Zelda's up next. Zelda, Pyra, Palutena, Inkling, Byleth. So, with all the characters who were announced before the DLC, Isabel is probably the one who's the most shocking. Because I kind of assumed that Villager would be the only Animal Crossing character we'd ever get in Smash. And it makes sense in hindsight because like Animal Crossing is one of Nintendo's most popular franchises of all time. So it would make sense that they'd want to have another Animal Crossing character in the game. But Isabel? She's like the definition of a cute character, so like... It didn't seem like she should have been playable at all, but I'm really happy that she was because Isabel's adorable. Now, I will say, Zelda, I really do like this version of her in Smash Brothers. She's super adorable, and I love this version of Zelda. I will say, I think it's very, very lame that the Zelda characters only have one version each. So, because like, for Fire Emblem, Ike has both his original and Path of Radiance versions in the game. So why couldn't they have multiple versions of the Zelda characters? Link kind of gets that, but he's still mostly based off the Breath of the Wild version. And Zelda is only her Link Between Worlds version, and Ganondorf is only from Ocarina of Time. It's like, you already have the stuff finished. You already have, like, their other versions from the previous games finished and things like that, so you really couldn't have included more than one version. I don't know, it's just something that always really bugged me. And the thing is, like, as much as I love this version of Zelda in Smash Brothers, I thought our Twilight Princess version was prettier, so I was really bummed that she didn't make an appearance at all in this game. And the big thing is, I really don't agree with the mindset of for why Zelda couldn't be playable in... why Breath of the Wild Zelda couldn't be playable in this game. Because the mindset was, at least at the time, that Zelda was more into research than fighting. She spends 100 years fighting Calamity Ganon in Breath of the Wild. And this is especially not the case in Tears of the Kingdom, which she has an even more active role in that game. So, and you also have characters like Isabel, who's has like no fighting experience whatsoever, so... Why wasn't Breath of the Wild Zelda the one who was playable? That just would have made way more sense than A Link to the Past, where she spends the entire game locked into Crystal. It just really drove me crazy. Alright, we got King Hyrule defeated. Next up is Shulk. We got Shulk from Museum of the Chronicles and Skyward Sword in the Skyloft map from Skyward Sword. Yeah, we got two of the best Wii games on here. Alright. And I love the Battle of the Goddess song. This probably is my favorite Zelda song, at least top 5 or something like that. Because, like, there's like a lot of great Zelda songs out there. Battle of the Windfish is top tier as well. I love the Final Hours theme from Majora's Mask. Battle of the Goddess just has a really special place, so that's like a very top tier song and stuff like that. And we did it! We did it! We did it! Yay! Victory! A little sad we didn't get a chance to use Byleth, but that's alright. Byleth is awesome. I don't care what anyone says. Byleth is a really cool addition to the game. Alright. With that taken care of, our next segment is going to be Random Number Gaming. Alright, so we'll be switching over to my PC screen for this next part. Now, we do have our full list right here, and unfortunately, it looks like time's going to be up for the ability for our viewers to vote for a game. We will have incentives during the actual Random Number Gaming itself for people to vote, but this is going to be the list of games we'll be playing. Now, the areas where we'll be generating the random numbers are going to be either, where is it? It's going to be either a Nintendo Switch Online, it's going to be the 3DS games, and the PlayStation 4 games. So let's generate the number. Actually, I'm going to change this real quick, so... There we go. Okay, that should be synced up properly now. Generate the numbers. We got 141, 278, and 303. Just making a note for myself for that. All right, 141, 278, 303. So, looks like the games that we're going to be playing during the next segment, we've got Yoshi's Story. Alright, that's going to be an interesting one. 278 is going to be Hey, Pikmin! So far, so good. I don't have to re-download anything. And the last game, 303, Kingdom Hearts. Is that going to be a good one? I might want to... We'll put that one... We'll remark that one down, but we might have to pick something else, because I may need to re-download that one. But it's fine. Alright. So let's get back over here. And we're going to be starting Random Number Gaming a little bit late, because we're running into a bit of overtime for this segment anyway. So around 4:30, 4:40-ish, we'll be starting up Random Number Gaming. So we'll see you all in a moment.